GI instructional videos, sewing series. In this series of instructional videos, you will learn how to hand sew, as well as learn about machines. May the power of sewing help you in your challenge.
Hi guys, so I will be showing you how to sew a pillowcase with a sewing machine. So every sewing machine comes with its own set of instructions because every model is a little bit different. So I'm going to be showing you how to set up the sewing machine and then making the pillowcase. But just keep in mind that my sewing machine might not be exactly the same as your sewing machine, but your instruction manual will be able to tell you exactly how to set yours up. They'll be similar, but not exactly the same. So the first thing that we're going to be going over is safety when using a sewing machine. Sewing machines are extremely powerful machines and the needle is built directly in. So it's very important that when you're using a sewing machine, you are being very, very careful. If you are on the younger side, you should always have an adult present so that they can make sure that you are, using the proper safety techniques. All sewing machines are powered by a pedal. So if I turn this on and press this pedal, the machine starts running. So this is going to be on the ground because you press it with your foot. So you have to be very aware of where it is at all times because if you accidentally press it while your hands are here, it can become very dangerous. So just always keep in mind that if the machine is on, the needle can start moving at any time if you press the pedal. So when setting up a sewing machine, there are two main parts. The first part, you will have a large spool of thread that goes at the top of the machine, and then you will have a bobbin that goes on the bottom of the machine. However, when you are setting up the machine, you have to do something that is called winding the bobbin. So that is the first thing that we're going to be showing you how to do today. So your spool of thread, you have to lift up this little piece and just insert the spool of thread onto it. Every sewing machine will come with a spool stopper, and this just goes on the end of this peg to hold the spool of thread in place. After you put the spool of thread on, you're going to want to find the end of the thread and you're going to take it. And on sewing machines, there are very detailed instructions on the sewing machine in the instruction manual. So we're just going to follow the numbers. So we're going to put it through here for winding the bobbin, and then we go around and wrap the piece of thread around this tension button, which pulls the thread taut once you are winding the bobbin, and then you bring the string over here. Then you're going to take your empty bobbin and you're going to thread the string through the center and through one of the holes. So you go into the center and then through one of the holes out through the top. Then what you do is you insert the bobbin onto the bobbin threader, and in the case of my machine, you have to push this over to lock it into place. To begin, you're going to hold this thread and hold down on this. Actually, no, and you're going to, and hold down on this and slowly start to wind the bobbin. I think that's right. Yes. And so it's very important that you hold onto the thread during the first little part so that it gets taut. And then you're going to take your pair of scissors and cut off this excess piece. And then you're just going to press on the pedal again and finish winding the bobbin. When you have enough thread, you stop pressing the pedal, push this out of place, and pull up. Now you have a wound bobbin, and then all you do is cut off this excess piece, and then you have your wound bobbin. Now we're going to be threading the needle on the sewing machine. Sewing machines are very complicated when it gets to this part, so this is where we're going to be following these very small instructions that are built onto the sewing machine. So you take your thread that's connected to your spool, and in this case, we wrap it around this little piece up here. You go down, following number 3, up through number 4, and then this part, we take this over here and we raise the needle, and this piece comes out, and then you wrap this around the back end and through this very small insert right here. Now we bring the thread down. So after you thread it through this piece, which is number 6, you go down and back to get the thread in line with the needle. This part is probably the most difficult part because it's hard to see. There we go. And so see, now this string is taut and right next to the needle. So now we're going to thread the needle. My sewing machine has a built-in needle threader. Some do not though. So if you were to do this without a machine that has a needle threader, you just line up your thread and your needle and string it through. And so if your machine doesn't have a needle threader, you just thread it through like that. But mine does, and if yours does too, I'm gonna show you how to use the needle threader. So you usually have to just pull this attachment down, wrap the string around this piece counterclockwise, and then hold this string in front. Then you push this through, and it will pull the string back through the needle, and then you lift it up, and then there's a loop on the back side of the needle, and then you just pull it through. And that is how to do it with a needle threader. So now this string is going to go, we're gonna pull it out towards the back, and now we're going to thread the bobbin through the machine. So all machines have a bobbin cap, so we just pop this off by pulling this lever and remove the bobbin cap. And you're gonna start by lifting up the guide. There is usually a lever somewhere on your machine. Mine is in the back, and so we lift that up. Now, yeah, so see, mine was in the downwards position. The lever is right here on my machine, and it lifts it up so that you are able to put things underneath it, such as fabric or, thread in this case. So we're gonna lift that up, and then we're placing the bobbin in the bobbin holder. And now there is a very small indent in all machines right here, which is what we're going to string the thread through. So the thread is going to be facing in this direction, so if you pull on it, your bobbin goes counterclockwise, but then you're going to pull the thread clockwise through the small incision and then out through the back, so that if you were to pull on it, it would spin like this. So now we're going to begin actually sewing our pillow. So you're going to take your piece of fabric, and I'm going to be making a larger pillow just because the machine allows it to, the actual sewing to go by much faster. So I'm going to be taking my ruler and then my chalk and just measuring out the size pillow that I want to make. So now that we have cut our pillow to size, this is going to be more of a longer pillow just because of the way that I cut the fabric. And so we're going to be doing the same thing that we did for the hand sewing video and folding the cloth inside out so that when we sew it, the seams are on the inside when we turn the pillow inside out so that the fabric is on the outside. So now we're just going to be taking some pins and pinning the fabric together so that we can outline where we want our seams to be. So I'm just going to be pinching the fabric and sticking the pins through. You want your pins to be perpendicular to the direction that you're going to be sewing in, so that when you run the machine over the pins, it doesn't get stuck on them. So now that we have all of our pins in place, we are going to start pushing this through the sewing machine. So you want to start where the fabric is folded and there's already, I guess, one of your seams. And so you're just going to place this underneath the guide where you want to start your seam, and you're going to push down on the guide so that it lays flat against the base of the sewing machine. This is where you want to be careful because you're going to start pressing on the pedal and the needle is going to start going. So we're just going to start going a little bit slower. That wasn't slow. It's fine. So I'm making sure that I'm keeping this in a straight line, going over the needles which have been placed as my guide. And you're going to want to make sure that it's pulled tightly. So once it comes out a little bit, you're just going to want to gently pull on this so that the seams will be straight and not get all bunched up. And once your fabric is pulled through, you're going to want to pull this out, pull the string out, and then usually on your sewing machine there will be something called a thread ripper so that you can just cut off that excess piece. Then we're going to push this up and then pull these out again. So now you have one seam done. And so I'm just going to cut off the excess bits where the string is extra long. And you don't need to tie any knots or anything because the sewing machine has already done that for you. And you're going to repeat this. Actually, and now you can take out all of your needles because it will provide you with a less messy workspace, and then you have the less of a chance of poking yourself. Okay, and now we are going to move on to our next seam, which is going to be this long one. So we're going to start with the same thing. You're going to put the seam that you just made perpendicular to the machine. You're going to put this a little bit on, and then you're just going to press down on your, and you're going to press down on your guide. And now we can start sewing again. So sometimes the needle heads can get stuck underneath, and if you just see that the needle head is starting to turn, just lift up your guide, sort of inch it out of the way, push the guide back down, and you can keep going. So you're gonna lift up your guide, pull the string out, cut the string, And then you have your second seam done. So we're gonna do the same thing. Gonna cut off the excess strings that we no longer need. And now you have your second seam fully done, and we're just gonna do the same thing one more time for the last one. However, because we need to stuff this pillow, we're going to leave about a 3-inch space on the end so that we have the ability to stuff the pillow. So once again, pull our string out, place our fabric, lay down the guide, and then get started sewing. So we've reached the end of my pins, and what I'm gonna do, just because I don't wanna leave this in a weird spot, is I'm going to make the machine go in reverse. On all machines, there is a button for reverse, and so I'm just going to pull down on this, and when I hold on this, the machine will go backwards. And then you just let go, and it will go forwards again. And then I'm just gonna lift up my guide and cut out. And because we're kind of abruptly stopping in the middle of the fabric, I wanted to make sure that I had no excess ends. The ends of our thread. And then we'll cut off the ends. Off the ends, and then take out our needles. And then we're going to turn our pillow inside out so that we have the ability to stuff it. So now that our pillow is completely inside out, we are going to start stuffing it. There's tons of different types of stuffing that you can get. I'm just going to be using just polyester fiber. You're gonna wanna rip it up into smaller pieces so that you can just fit it through the hole that we have left open. Okay, so now that your pillow is relatively stuffed, we are going to run this small piece through the sewing machine again. So we can pin it up again, making sure that our pins are running perpendicular to to where we will be sewing. You only need a few just because this is a smaller section of the pillow. And so normally you would be using a color thread that matches your fabric, but for this purpose, so you guys can see, we're still gonna be using the black thread. So you're gonna be doing the same thing, pulling the thread out a few inches, and then running the fabric through the guide and then just sewing just a little bit just so that we can close this section. And then I'm going to put it in reverse. Lift up the guide and pull through. It looks a little bit ugly just because it's black thread. If you were using either a white or a light green like the ones in this fabric, that it would almost be invisible. We're just going to be cutting the excess pieces. Removing the pins, and there you have your finalized pillow.